Welcome to Game Set Matchup, the podcast where we talk everything partnerships, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
So hi everyone, this is our first podcast in 2023. So happy New Year to everyone, and I hope you all had great Christmases. On this week's podcast, we spoke to Jonathan Brill. He works for a company called Eduvate. So they're looking to create partnerships in the education space, as they offer financial literacy training and education, especially for the younger people. For me, this is a really important topic, as schools. Do not teach about sort of how to manage your money, that kind of stuff, when you're obviously there, or like how to save or, investments and stuff like that. So, especially in today's digital world, more than ever, this is an extremely important thing that young people need to be aware of and alert so they can, basically plan for their futures. Also, just for a little bit of fun, I posed a question at the end, if you could create a partnership with any business, any person, in the world, who would it be? And why? You'll have to wait to the end of the episode to find out. Without further ado, enjoy this week's episode. Okay, welcome to Game Set Matchups. This is the podcast where we discuss all things partnerships. As you, I'm your host today, Carl Busby, and today I'm joined by my co-host Zara Mogul.
Yep. Hi everyone. Good to be back on air again.
Nice. If we could please welcome our guest today. It's Jonathan Brill from Eduvate. Hello, welcome, Jonathan.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thanks very much. Just a quick one. Obviously, our first podcast of 2023. Happy New Year to listeners who are listening in. We'll do our usual. We're going to start off as we usually do. Get to know our guest a little bit better. Where he's from, what he's about. So, John, if you don't mind, just tell our listeners a little bit more about you, a little bit of your background, what you're doing in your sort of current role, and what is Eduvate all about?
I'm Jonathan Brill, and I'm CEO of Eduvate. Eduvate has been going for around 10 years. Our focus has always been to look at the aspirations, hopes, and skills of young adults, concentrating on the UK, but going global as we have done. We've had various iterations, and our current iteration concerns upskilling financial literacy for young adults through online gamification. And that is at scale. So that means that we're doing this for large amounts of people, not small amounts of people.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah, I mean, for me, I could, I think that's just an incredible, thing to be doing. I mean, when I was younger, I think I would have been, it would have made a big difference if I'd had, someone to be able to give that type of, that type of information. I think it is one of those things, just the basics in life, like, you get to learn more, how you're going to manage, mortgages and, your having a credit rating is all about, like, and you don't really get taught these things, in school.
You certainly don't, and what you're saying is echoed throughout all the countries in the world that we've talked to. Can I do a quote here?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Which just came through this morning about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
from a guy called Sven Smith, and he says, "The small voices bring a lot of hope." He's at Davos at the moment. And he says, "In Davos, I always like to meet the startup or technology company that comes up with an idea that, if it works, could scale through the planet and change something." Wow. And that's really what we're all about.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Okay, to start us off, how have you seen Eduvate's approach change to creating partnerships in recent times? And also, what does a go-to partnership look like for Eduvate?
You're always looking at the scenario that unravels in front of you. So pre-pandemic, there was a certain run of instances where you had to adjust your partnership, your friendships. You went out, you had a pint, you had a beer, and then everything changed.
Yeah,
and that change in interpersonal relationships changed the whole way in which we viewed partnerships, the way we conducted ourselves, and the need for partnerships became ever more important. So in terms of the current partnerships, the sort of the gold star partnerships that we've got at the moment, I'll give you two examples. One is with the Wisconsin Economic Development Council. What? How do you get a partnership with these guys? Well, we met up in the City of London, we had a chat, and we have continued the development of this partnership through Zoom, through this medium. And we are conducting a feasibility study in Wisconsin to see how and whether we can upskill the financial literacy of young adults at scale in the state of Wisconsin in the US.
Wow.
And that's an astonishing thing to be doing. And I don't think we'd even have thought of doing that before the pandemic. It brought about a skill set which we've had to adapt to move in through Zoom and other media like it. Related to that general context, I'd like to mention a partnership that we have in the supply chain. So we're a people business, we're a software business, but we're a people business, and we need people who understand gamification, who might feel that they are not very financially literate, and who are competent enough to research for us in different countries to see whether what they feel is more general. And the company that we're partnering with is a company called Virtual Internships. And what it does is it supplies us, goodness me, with interns, virtually, in different parts of the world. We've been working in this way for a year, and by and large, not every intern is perfect, but the best ones are absolutely super. And we have moved the company forward working with Virtual Internships. It's been a very, very good partnership.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Also, it's like most things these days, it starts off virtual with everything that's going on. So just touching on there, so I was looking at obviously at partnerships. We've just gone through in quite sort of good detail there. So obviously, we've kind of defined there sort of what the definitions of that sort of partnership were. How have you gone about sort of creating them? So obviously, we asked this question because obviously at Finder, this is what we're here. Obviously, all about partnerships. So you mentioned there about the one, you spoke to that guy at Wisconsin. How did that sort of come about, and sort of how in general, how are you sort of going about sort of, creating partnerships?
You have to be flexible, and you have to look at different means of doing it, because the palette is very wide. I wasn't one of these people who jumped up and down and said, "Oh, the pandemic's going away, let's charge around and go to exhibitions and things like that," because that's a way of doing of creating partnerships, and it hasn't worked. For us. It hasn't worked over the years, either exhibiting or going along as participants and doing that. So we haven't done that. Last week I attended a networking meeting at this organization Finder. Oh yes, I remember. and we sat around in a well-placed room, and we talked to each other quite structured way. And we also listened to conversations from the panel. Now, that, in my experience, is a very good way of developing the first contacts, the partnerships. And that was, in fact, how we came upon Wisconsin. Because it was that kind of meeting where we came, we talked, we saw, we looked each other in the eye and said, yeah, let's move forward. So that is blended with the purely online or discussions that we have, where everything has happened online and I have never met physically the people that we are partnering up with. And a case in point would be virtual internships. None of these people have I ever met in person. So I think it's that blend, and I think you need to choose your palette in order to get going what works for you.
No, I think I totally agree. I was you just obviously having mentioned there the Finder Collective that was you came to, so nice little drop there. But yeah, just note for any listeners, these events that we do offer, sort of on a roughly sort of quarterly basis. But you do need a member to get an invite. So just a little note there. Cool.
Yeah. So what advice would you give your younger self starting out, perhaps the do's and don'ts of partnership creation and development?
My younger self was some time ago. There were dinosaurs wandering along.
I don't believe that.
So let's be clear. I think eyes wide shut is not the place to be. I ran, as my younger self, a national youth organization, and we had a touring musical show. I set it up at a leading London theatre. I phoned them up a week before. I said, everything all right? And they said, who are you? We hadn't got all that kind of cheery stuff, all the conversations in writing. We hadn't formalized that partnership. Right. It was a charity deal. Everything was nice and vague, but they just swatted us out the road when a paying customer came in along the line. So the advice to my younger self would have been, don't make stupid mistakes like that. There's a place for formalizing these relationships, and don't mistake that kind of friendly atmosphere for something which you need to get it right. It's still a business relationship.
Yeah. No, 100%. I said, I think he said another bit there on communication as well, and just making sure that all parties, understand what's going on. That's great. Also, so would you just say, obviously, experience of sounds like some quite sort of varied things there. What would you say you've got in terms of like any sort of top tips when it comes to sort of creating sort of high performing teams or winning cultures, or just in general, like if you obviously managing a team, like what sort of tips would you sort of give around to sort of get those teams performing?
I think the last example was attention to detail. And I don't think that goes away.
Yeah.
In this world we live in, the people who produce rapid, reliable responses, whether they are the partners you're dealing with or your own team, stand out. I was talking with Apple developers yesterday, going through some kind of registration process. And they said, click here and an Apple developer will be with you in 2 minutes. Excuse me? And this is the guy with the NHS with my doctor's surgery I haven't seen for 6 months. If you can get that going, then that's a tremendous thing. Reliable, rapid responses. And the final thing I would say, and this is a note to self as well, is pay no attention to global boundaries. They don't really exist in the way that politicians tell you, you're Scottish, you're English, you're UK, you're European. They don't exist in the business world in quite that way. And we have been able, by just sort of pushing that to one side, yes, we'll catch up with that later, to create all sorts of partnerships across the globe as a small company.
Well, yeah, I've never really thought of that actually before. I mean, obviously, with the technology, I think we've got to them, and it's just, obviously incredible. You can do so many things sort of, globally. I mean, here at Finder, we have developers and people that work in all sorts of different countries and stuff like that. But yeah, no, it's good. I hadn't really thought of it sort of in that way. Interesting.
Now, as we look forward, what do you think the future holds for businesses when it comes to creating partnerships with each other? What, if anything, will you and eduvate be trying to do differently?
What we are trying to do is very difficult. It's very complex. And the thought of doing it without partnerships is impossible. We have to partner with businesses, with countries, with education authorities, all over the place in order to try and make something happen for the benefit of young people. A lot of these organizations become so involved with themselves and their own way of doing it that they forget who they're trying to do. So we have to keep that right at the forefront of everything that we do. So the partnerships approach is endemic to companies like ours who want to establish whether upskilling financial literacy at scale is feasible and desirable. And that can only be done working with organizations in the private and public sectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally makes perfect sense. I mean, like I said, I think we know, especially with the sort of current climate and stuff, in 2023 partnerships are just they're just a huge thing for lots of businesses that then just need to become, I mean, obviously you have like, the big scale companies that obviously, you might read in the news and stuff that are potentially trying to do partnerships, but just for me, since I've been at Finder, just seeing how important these things are for the future of lots and lots of businesses, and obviously for you, like I said, in your company, it's very, very clear. Without those partnerships, it'd be quite a bit of a struggle.
Absolutely impossible.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it's been a great chat. So it's got one little question, just a little bit of fun. So something that we're going to do moving forward. So obviously we've just discussed quite a lot about partnerships, also in terms of the fact that how important they are. If you could partner with any business, any company, or it could be a particular person, entrepreneur, could be anyone. What would you, who would you want to partner with, and why?
Michael Arteta at Arsenal. Now, the reason is that they are a well-managed, well-organized organization whose recruitment policy is tremendous. And for us, they have groups and groups of young adults who are earning a lot of money, most of them, but who are not probably financially literate and who are probably not self-reliant. They're working with all sorts of 10%, 20% agents and so on. Yeah. So if we could work with an organization like that and multiply that throughout the world, creating gamification for people with high net worth as for a short period of time, earners, then that would be an important thing. And that would have to be Arsenal, but could be someone else, I suppose.
Well, I think, like I said, that's wonderful way to end. Obviously, I don't know how well that go down with our listeners in terms of who are Arsenal fans or not, but all of us are Arsenal fans here, actually. So it works quite nicely. One last thing, just before we go, we talked about this before. You got those wonderful pictures just behind you, just there, which you're just nicely, perfectly in the middle of. What do they sort of represent? They do look quite cool.
They were created by a Scottish artist called Alan Lennon. Okay. And Alan Lennon is one of these artists, commercial, but also just working for his own approach to life. And he manages to scale between the two. And we have a good partnership. At the last exhibition that he ran, there were a pair of conga drums in the ground, on the floor. So I was able to play along, and as people looked at the pictures, it's called Drumming Up Business.
Literally,
it was a good partnership.
No, that's amazing. I said they are really, really cool pictures. Listen, I've really had a lot of fun. Enjoyed talking to you and stuff. I really appreciate you coming on today and just giving us your experience. Thanks very much for giving us your time.
Thanks indeed to both of you. The questions are very insightful, and I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with you. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, John. Brilliant. All right, thanks very much.
Thanks for joining this week's Game Set Matchup. Tune in to hear more about the need to knows and the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating successful business partnerships.